Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving into something that might just change the way you think about, well, pretty much everything. We're going to talk about breaking free from that constant grinding pressure of setting goals, and instead finding a way to live that's more curious, more flexible, and honestly, a whole lot more fun.
I mean, really, have you ever felt that? You know the feeling, that anxiety that creeps in when you look at your 5-year plan, or the burnout that comes from just ticking boxes off a life checklist. It's like we're all running a race we didn't even sign up for. That's the world we live in, totally obsessed with goals.
But what if there's a better way? A way to actually embrace all the messy, unpredictable parts of life. That's exactly what we're going to unpack. We're talking about tiny experiments, a complete mindset shift that turns fear into curiosity and rigid plans into a joyful adventure.
And hey, if that sounds like something you need in your life, do us a huge favor right now and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It seriously helps us keep making more deep dive explainers just like this one for you. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to diagnose the problem, this goal-obsessed world of ours. Then, we'll introduce a new way to think, making a pact with uncertainty. After that, we get super practical, with tiny actions, learn how to dance with disruption, see how to grow with others, and finally, wrap it all up by talking about what it means to live an experimental life.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1. We're going to get right to the heart of the matter and figure out why our current approach to success is just, well, broken.
You know, at the core of all this pressure is something called the linear progression model. It's this idea we're all sold that life is supposed to be a straight line. You do A, then B, then C, and bam, you're successful. But we all know life isn't like that, right? It's messy, it's winding, and this model just sets us up to feel like failures anytime we take a detour.
And this is where the real damage happens. And it's kind of twofold. On one side, you've got the illusion of progress. This is what turns life into a joyless grind to get to the finish line, only to feel empty and ask, now what? On the other side, you've got the pressure of must be. This is even worse. It ties your entire identity to achieving some goal, making any failure feel absolutely world-ending. It just kills your natural curiosity.
So this goal-obsessed thinking really boxes us in three specific ways. First, the time constraint, where rigid deadlines make us rush. Then there's the scope constraint. Our goals are so narrow we get tunnel vision and miss all these amazing, unexpected opportunities. And finally, the identity constraint, which forces us to chase a version of ourselves that society wants, not the person we actually are.
So, we've laid out the problem, and it's a little bleak, I know. But now for the really good part, the solution. It's a totally new mindset, one where we stop fighting uncertainty and actually make a pact with it. This slide is everything. It shows the complete shift in thinking. A goal-centric life is always asking, how do I get there? And sees failure as something to be ashamed of. But an experiment-centric life asks a much better question. What will I learn? Suddenly, failure isn't failure anymore. It's just essential data. Your motivation shifts from chasing praise to following your own curiosity. It's a game changer.
And the main tool in our new toolkit is the tiny experiment. This is just a small, low-risk action you take for one reason and one reason only, to learn something. It's not about success or failure. This is huge because it completely de-risks everything. An experiment that fails isn't a disaster, it's a success. You got data that will inform your next, smarter experiment. Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we make it a part of our lives? Well, there's a super simple, powerful framework to guide us. It's an acronym that's easy to remember. P.A.C.T.
P.A.C.T stands for PACT, ACT, REACT, and IMPACT. It's a 4-step process. First, you make a pact with yourself to embrace this new mindset. Then, you learn how to act with purpose and flexibility. Next, you learn to react to the information you gather. And finally, you create impact by connecting and sharing what you learn with the world.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts. How do you build one of these things? It's pretty simple, actually. Every experiment needs 4 parts. A clear hypothesis, which is just your educated guess. Controlled variables, so you keep the test small and focused. Objective metrics to measure what happened. And predefined next steps, so you know what to do with the results. See? This isn't just fluffy talk. It's a real system.
Okay, let's get our hands dirty with the ACT part of our framework. This is all about building a system for getting things done that actually works with our human nature, not against it. And we're going to start with time.
We've all been told to manage our time, but that's kind of wrong. The real secret is to manage your energy. This framework breaks our time into 3 types.
We have high-energy, focus time for our most important experiments. We have medium-energy, maintenance time for emails and chores, and we have low-energy, recovery and discovery time for rest and play. The magic is matching the task to your energy level. Now let's talk about the big one, procrastination. We all see it as this personal feeling, right? A sign of laziness we need to crush. But what if that's totally wrong? What if procrastination is actually a signal trying to tell you something important?
Instead of fighting it, we just need to listen to it. Procrastination is a diagnostic tool. If you're procrastinating, it's usually one of three things. It could be a signal of unclarity, the task is just too big or confusing. It might be a signal of misalignment, it's just not the right work for you. Or, and this is a big one, it could just be a signal of fatigue. You just need a break.
You know what procrastination's best friend is? Perfectionism, the need to get it perfect before we even start. The antidote is something called a minimum viable learning product, or MVLP. This is the absolute smallest, scrappiest thing you can create just to learn something. Its goal isn't quality, it's speed of learning. It is designed to be imperfect.
So how do you get good at being imperfect on purpose? Here are 3 killer strategies. The 70% rule. Launch your project when it's 70% ready. That last 30% is a waste of energy. Use artificial deadlines to force yourself to finish. And my favorite, create a draft for burning. A first version that you promise yourself no one will ever see. It completely removes the pressure.
Okay, we know how to act. Now let's move on to the react phase. This is where things get really fun, because we learn to stop just tolerating uncertainty and start actively dancing with it, using it as fuel.
The engine that drives this entire experimental life is the growth loop. And once you get it spinning, it's basically unstoppable. You start with an input, a question you have. You run the experiment and you get an output, the data. Then, and this is the key, you use that output as reinforcement to create a better, smarter input for your next experiment. It's a cycle of constant learning. And to keep these loops spinning fast, you need to get good at making decisions. This little framework is a total game changer. There are only 2 types of decisions. Type A decisions are big, irreversible ones, like buying a house. You need to be slow and careful with those. But most decisions are Type B. They're reversible, like trying a new app. You should make those fast. The trap is treating every decision like it's Type A. I absolutely love this quote because it sums up the whole philosophy. The goal isn't to make the right decision. The goal is to make the decision that opens up the most doors for you later, that gets you the most information, and that costs you the least to make. It's all about staying flexible. So, what happens when life throws a huge curveball at you? A major disruption. Instead of panicking, you can pull out this 3-question model. First, ask, what is no longer true? Get rid of your old assumptions. Second, what is more important now? Refocus your energy. And third, how can I turn this into an experiment? This transforms a crisis into a chance to learn.
All right, we've covered acting and reacting. Now for the final piece of our P.A.C.T Framework, impact. This is all about how this mindset totally transforms how we connect with other people and the world.
You know that kind of gross feeling of networking? This is the exact opposite. It's called social flow. It's that incredible feeling when you're working on something cool with other people and you get so into it that your ego and the clock just disappear. Real connection comes from creating together, not just exchanging business cards. Now, this next idea might sound a little scary at first, but it is one of the most powerful accelerators for growth out there. It's the concept of learning in public. This means sharing your process, your questions, your raw data, and yep, even your failures. It makes you vulnerable, but it also supercharges your learning. And you don't have to just broadcast your whole life. There's a smart, simple way to do it called the P.A.C.T Framework. You share the topic you're learning about, the specific hypothesis you're testing, and the raw data you got back. This invites really good, helpful feedback because you're sharing the journey, not just showing off a result. This all leads to a much healthier way of thinking about the mark we leave on the world. We need to stop worrying about building a legacy, this giant, heavy monument to ourselves. Instead, we should focus on creating ripple impact. It's the light, unpredictable waves that our small actions and shared ideas create in other people's lives. You just start the ripple. You don't control where it goes.
And here we are. We've covered a ton of ground and we've reached our final section. This is where we bring it all home and talk about what it really means to start living this way, because your journey really does start now.
If you take away just one thing from all of this, please let it be this. The real prize isn't a job or a number in your bank account or any single achievement. The true goal is the person you become along the way. Someone who is endlessly curious, incredibly resilient, and an absolute master at the art of learning.
So, I'll leave you with a challenge, a question to kick things off. Just think about it for a second. What is the one big question, the one big doubt you have in your life right now that you could turn into one tiny, low-risk experiment today? Thanks for watching.